Hi, hello. Welcome to Dear PB, a podcast where we hopefully help you become a better speedrunner, but probably won't. I'm Corbin May. You can call me May, or she, or her.
I'm Swoos. You can call me SWC, or he, or they.
And joining us from Hello Rule, it's TGH.
Hello Rule.
Hello.
Well, I felt like I should be kind of formal because we're a serious podcast.
That's fair.
Yeah. I've heard that y'all are pretty serious around here. So yeah, I've come to be serious as well.
Perfect. Please finish introducing yourself. Don't let me rude you out of that.
Sorry. I didn't mean to be impolite. Hi, I'm TGH. I speedrun a lot of 2D Zelda, and that is what I'm going to be doing right now, and I'm happy to be here. So
And we're happy to have you here.
My pronouns are he, him as well.
TGH was on our short list for a while, and then I started learning Tunic, which TGH is the world record holder for. And then I was like, we should probably just get TGH on here, huh? To not run Tunic because it's too short.
Yeah, so here I am not running Tunic. I was about to say
it's too short.
It is too short. Yeah.
It's Tunic's spiritual predecessor.
True. What is Link if not a fox? But
Yeah.
wait.
What is
there
Link
ever a
wearing
fox?
if
There's
not a tunic?
Majora's Mask is probably the predecessor, right? Because you have the fox mask,
True.
and they're both
Probably,
3D.
yeah.
It's
Probably.
actually Star Fox. That's the
Yeah,
predecessor.
I was gonna bring up Star Fox Adventures. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
True. Or Pokemon Red, because you get a Vulpix, and then that's a fox.
Any
Let's
game
just
that has a fox
Let's
in
just
it.
name all of the foxes in all of games ever.
Before that, you can get started on your run.
Yeah, you
whenever
can't do that.
You would like.
Sure, I am the smiley face character. I believe this is it's actually the B character in Japanese. There's pronounced B. Yeah, okay. I've been told that a bunch of times. Like, why do you name yourself B? I'm like, because it looks like a smiley face.
Yeah, close enough.
This is fine. All right,
Japanese is a
so
couple smiley faces.
I'm just gonna get started, I guess. In 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so I guess I'll explain a little bit about the run.
You're not supposed to talk about the run on our show.
Oh, okay, all right.
I forgot to mention this. So,
Explain the coolest thing about the run in one sentence.
We do oh god, we don't woob in this run. This game is called this category is called any percent no wrong warp out of bounds. Otherwise known as no woob. Because it's just like it's just how it's pronounced. You say it all as one word.
Yeah, we the way that we do this podcast is we have two streams of it. Or we upload it in two places. There's the podcast version on like Spotify and stuff, and then there's the YouTube version. And we have a run so that people have something to watch for the YouTube version. It's not just like a blank screen for an hour. So if we talk too much about the run, you can talk about cool stuff that happens in the run. But if we talk too much about the run, then if you're a podcast listener, you're like, wow, this is nothing.
That's complete. This is actually a really good idea for like a speedrunning podcast. I do really have to say, like, I mean,
you're already on the show. You don't have to like butter us up too much.
Look, I appreciate it.
No, I mean that. I mean every word of it. I'm not buttering anything.
This is butterless.
What are your thoughts of butter?
Butter's good.
All right.
Butter is good. One of my favorite. It's my favorite bagel topping. I'm not a.
I had a bagel with butter this morning.
Ooh.
Yeah, if I go to the bagel place, I always get a bagel with butter. And then I sometimes eat it later. This is the least interesting thing ever. Talk about how did you get into speedrunning and your history with speedrunning, so people have a little bit of knowledge about your bona fides.
Before I get into that, I do need to notify people there is a flashing lights warning here.
Okay.
I will talk about the run for a brief second to tell you flashing lights warning.
That is extremely fair. We appreciate that.
No problem. Okay.
Oh my god, that's so bad.
Yeah, it's not great. How I got into speedrunning? Well, okay, so I speedrun a game that you might have heard of called Undertale back in 2017 or 20. Actually, I started in 20. I started right about the time where it like came out, like maybe a little bit after. But yeah, 2015 was when I started speedrunning. Like my first speed game was actually Pokemon Red.
And
that was probably the worst run I've ever actually had the experience of running. So at least from like my performance standpoint, but it was my first run, so like I can't really blame myself too much, I guess. But and then I took it a little bit more seriously with Undertale, and then started to like actually see some success. And like it's funny because at first like speedrunning was a way for me to continue a sort of competitive vice that I had when I quit. I used to be a professional golfer. And then once I quit professional golf, like I needed sort of a vice to like take the place of that like competitive spirit that I kind of just lost from not playing golf anymore. So it's funny because like now I speedrun like for completely different reasons altogether, but I still enjoy it just as much, if not more, probably.
Have you done the Wii Sports golf?
I've done it, yes.
Okay.
Have I speedrun it? No.
No, that's what I meant. The speed, because I that was one of my favorite summoning salt videos. Is the Wii Sports golf one.
I can tell you though that as a former professional golfer, the Wii Sports golf is completely realistic to real life golf.
I'm sure. Yeah.
This. Yeah.
Yeah. As a drummer, when you do rock band drums, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, rock band drums, I guess, are closer than any of the other rock band instruments to what actually.
Yeah, it could be like the
but,
6-key keyboard.
Yeah.
Just like a real 88 key.
Well, that's not even evenly divisible. Wait, hold on. Before I say that, I need to think about the math of that. That's not even evenly divisible.
I don't know how many keys the rock band one has, but it's not a lot.
So you can do it multiple ways, right? It has a bunch of keys, but you can do it like the pro keys version, where like you play the keys regularly, or you could do it where it's just essentially, what if you didn't have to strum the guitar?
Yeah, it's just like blocks of keys.
Also, you're officially our second Undertale Cinematic Universe guest.
Oh my goodness! What is that? What does
that mean?
Well, because Deltarune is also an Undertale game.
Okay, that's fair.
And we had Helix on, who ran Deltarune.
Oh, gotcha.
Helix also ran Undertale.
You're officially our second Undertale runner.
Nice. I remember meeting Helix back when they were in the Undertale community, or back. I think like they started running Undertale around the time when I stopped running Undertale. I think, if I'm not
like ships
mistaken.
passing in the night.
Yep.
So this is an advice show where you send in your speedrunning questions and then we answer them using our combined wisdom. And as I feel like that's been pretty clear so far, we recently have been doing a very bad job of answering questions because we get really distracted because both of the hosts of the show have extreme ADHD. So who will say how that goes this time? Dear PB, what are your thoughts on skipping a casual play of a newly released game to immediately start rooting the speedrun? From Raring Rooter. I should also say that I originally pulled all these questions for our Amber episode last week, which the audio got screwed up on, which is why last week's audio is just the live show, because we don't have a show because my feed just didn't record, which was super cool. So Swoos and I have answered these questions before, but you don't get to hear our original answers. You get to hear our not off the cuff, more thought out answers.
As if I would remember my original answer anyways.
Oh no, yeah, 1,000%. The moment that we go off the air, it's like the Men in Black pen of everything that happened on the podcast is just wiped from my brain.
Yep.
Does anyone remember the question?
It was the skipping casual play to immediately start routing.
That was a test and you passed?
I'm
okay,
reading
well that's
it.
cheating. I have done this once. Kind of. And that is when Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out. It came because of the way Nintendo does releases. They don't do a simultaneous world release. They do it at a certain time in every time zone. So it came out in Australia like a day early.
Ah, yeah.
So I was watching.
Yeah,
I was watching people play it on Twitch because they all made Australian eShop accounts because, you know, you gotta, if you're a content creator, you gotta do the hustle. And when we realized that the underground had what Pokemon were available there, because also everything was data mined at that point. And then also that, oh, hey, this is like a 1-to-1 remake. They didn't change pretty much anything in this game. And we had all the trainer data because it had all been data mined. So before I got the game, I rooted like 2/3 of any percent. a route that is now it's not the fastest route at this point, but it is like one that people recommend for like when you're getting started because it's a lot less punishing than the actual 90% route that people do now. But that is the only time that I've rooted a game before it came out, which I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity to do again. But usually I won't want to root a game until I played it casually, because like I would either spoil it depending on the game, or like I don't know if I want to run a game until I've played it.
I feel like I've definitely gone into a game knowing I was going to speedrun it, but I've never actually like rooted or like studied a speedrun before playing it casually. The only case where there have actually been two cases. One of them was Zelda 2, because I learned Zelda 2 in order to run a category called the Classic Trilogy for Zelda, or like 2D Zelda Classic Trilogy is like the full official name for it. But yeah, basically it's Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Zelda 3, or Link to the Past, all back to back to back. And so I played Zelda 2 casually, like on stream. I think they probably deleted my highlight. Yeah, they deleted it probably, but or rather it just like became obsolete. So you can't actually watch it anywhere, thankfully. But yeah, God, I made like MS Paint maps for that game, like
That's
as I was doing
amazing,
it and
actually.
showing them on stream. Yeah, the game's confusing at first. It's very obtuse, but in a lot of different ways. But I basically played the game knowing I was going to speedrun it, but I made sure to play it casually first. And I did the same thing with Link's Awakening for the Switch. When that came out, like I knew I was going to speedrun that game because, like, you know, I speedrun this for years beforehand.
It's so different with the remake, though.
It's incredibly different, yeah, in a lot of different ways that you wouldn't expect as well.
Well, I mean, but what I was trying to get at is like, it is a different energy to like, oh, this is a remake, and so I'm probably going to run the remake because I run the original.
Yeah.
And so like, you can already start thinking about what's the same, what's different. Like, even if when you've played the original that many times, like you kind of can't help it.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people actually felt the same way about BDSP.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like, and also like, I know someone in particular named CJ. It's all good, who was talking to me a lot about how the new Pokemon Snap was a lot of the same, except it wasn't really. That's not really a remake, but it's more like, you know, they speedran the original.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's the mechanics are largely
your mechanics aren't really going to change.
Yeah.
Especially for a game like that, where it's just
I will
on rails.
say, that was a nice thing about Legends Arceus when I was playing that, because I like couldn't think about speedrun routing even subconsciously, because it was such a departure from the rest of the game of the series that it was just like, oh, cool, okay. I can just play this and not focus on the speed run. There are a lot of games that I have not completed casually before running, and by that I mean almost all of them.
I'm very bad at completing games.
Yeah, me too. I'll like get 80% through a game and be like, okay, cool. I've seen enough. Like, I have my fun.
You know
I
the
think
game
Sword
enough.
might be the only game that I've run that I've 100%, or that I've fully completed. Not even like 100%, but like the story casually before speedrunning it. Because let me think of what other games I did. Because Crosscode I didn't. Oras I didn't. X, Y, and White 2 I didn't. Hold on, what did I run?
Going through the entire
Hat in Time I did. But I have not 100%ed Hat in Time.
Yeah, I have.
Tunic I did. Not that I have completed runs of Tunic, but I was like, Tunic I did, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna 100% this game, and then I'm gonna start learning the speedrun, and then I just started learning the speedrun.
Good enough.
And then I haven't completed runs because it's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes if, like, you have a feeling that you're going to want to speedrun it, you kind of just want to get going. So
you want to start doing it. Yeah, exactly.
So you're just like, all right, I've had enough of this game. I want to, like, properly play it fast now, which is totally fine.
There's a plus and a minus to that, too, though, because it is cool to be there on the ground floor and, like, be part of the process, but also it does mean that if you're not part of the, like, if you don't want to be part of the process, you just want to run the game, you are going to be learning a lot of redundant strats.
Oh yeah, for sure, and a lot of things that aren't really as fast. That's just the growing pains of a new speedrun as a whole. But yeah, I usually try and play games casually first. Unless it's like a game that I know that I'm only going to want to speedrun. And it's just like, well, thing. I'll just do this. But otherwise, I'll play through
BDSP,
casually.
You could make the argument that I actually had the right idea by trying to run it and not trying to play it casually first. Then also, I hate running that game. It's so bad. The worst movement.
I mean, at least with something like that, you already know what you're going to expect.
I remember the movement being very difficult, like just playing casually in BDSP, just because like they didn't. Go ahead. Sorry.
So it's not even that it's difficult. It's just bad.
Well,
yeah, that's what I meant.
That makes it difficult.
Yeah, do you want my BDSP bike rant?
Oh God.
So okay, the way that the bike works in every game, every Pokemon game besides BDSP, is you hold down a button, right? And then as you're going, it accelerates up to a certain point, and you release the button, it quickly accelerates down, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just every frame that you have a button or the key pressed down, like a direction key, it is accelerating in that direction. And when you switch directions, it transfers your momentum to that direction. In tile-based games, it's pretty much like, hey, we're going to go move a tile faster. But like that's how it works in the 3D free movement ones. In BDSP, the way they did it instead is it's based on how long you've held the stick down. And then like it's just like a diff between the... It tracks when you started holding down the stick and then the time since you first held down the stick or like pushed the stick in a direction. And then based on that, it sets your acceleration. So the way that it works, it's like the way that kind of works out is like you'll bonk into a wall and then just come shooting out the other end because you're instantly set back to max acceleration again because all it cares about is how long you've held down the stick. It's not actually accelerating like an actual thing would. So it feels super wrong. It is better for movement, like for going fast technically, because if you bonk into something, you're not really punished for it as much. But it just feels so bad. That game also has the worst tile movement of any tile-based game ever made in the history of video games, because it is a game that is on a grid, and because it's just a recreation of the original game's grid, which is what they did in Gen 6 and for Let's Go as well. ORAS and Let's Go both do that. But the difference is that Let's Go is fully free movement. You can't do any sort of tile-based, they're like grid-based movement. But in ORAS, if you use the circle pad, you have free movement, and if you use a D-pad, then you're locked to the grid. Mm-hmm. And the way that they make this work is that if you are off the grid, when you press the D-pad in ORAS, it'll stutter step you back onto the grid. Like there'll be a little hiccup as your character realigns themselves in the middle of the tile. In BDSP, it doesn't do that. So when you use the D-pad, it just moves you one tile over from wherever you are, and it doesn't recenter you. So you can and there's a lot of one tile gaps because they didn't rebuild anything in the game to adjust for the new movement. So like you're just, unless you bonk into a wall, you are you cannot get back onto the grid unless you move into a corner. It's so bad. And the worst thing is that Gen 6 already fixed, like they already did it right in ORAS. They just had to copy ORAS.
They did.
I've ranted about this for hours. I'm so sorry, everyone. BDSP was such a disappointment. I enjoyed playing it casually, but I think it's a terrible speed game.
That's completely fair. Like, yeah, the biggest problem I had was they didn't seem to make any adjustments like for the full free movement system, which like that is absolutely you hit the nail on the head there. Like they just didn't make any adjustments.
It's things that are obviously wrong. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Like you can levy complaints about like other modern Pokemon games, but like, oh, there's too many cutscenes. Oh, they got rid of certain content. But like those are all like design choices, right?
Yeah.
More so of like this is like a conscious decision made by the development team to like that they went in trying to do versus this where it's just like the game doesn't feel good to play.
Yeah, I mean like when one of your fundamental mechanics is broken, it's gonna suck. Yeah.
The actual battles in BDSP work totally fine, but like just movement in that game just feels it feels so immediately bad.
Mm-hmm.
Is like the frustrating thing about it in a way that no other Pokemon game has ever felt like.
What was the name of the company that made it again? So like, is
Ilka?
It some four?
Ilka.
Yeah, I was gonna say some 4-letter like 4-letter company.
The Pokemon Home folks.
Yep. And
I think
I think
is that it is all in Unity, so there's a ton of mods for it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think for the most part they did a decent job. It's just like the movement that was kind of weird.
Like
That's
the
all.
thing about it is that it doesn't need to, like it's a game that doesn't feel like it needs to exist, except for that it's more accessible to purchase. Like that's like the one advantage to it, because they didn't do anything interesting with the game besides the underground, which I think actually the underground is pretty shallow when it comes down to it. But like in terms of all the gameplay, it's just a worse platinum. Well, without all the platinum stuff, it's a worse. Like, it's faster than Diamond Pearl, because Diamond Pearl is the slowest game ever because the animations are horrible. But it's disappointing because like with all the other remakes, they like they had a vision for them. Like there was like Oras added so much new stuff that even if you didn't like it, like you could still be like, okay, but that like this is it's not just a remaster, it's a remake.
Yeah.
They added new stuff, they changed some story stuff around, they added a post game, things like that. Versus BDSP, they just didn't do anything new with it besides the underground stuff. And like it's hard to say if lay that blame necessarily at Ilka's feet, because like we don't know what behind the scenes, if they like, I've said this on stream before, but it's like we don't know if like they were told to not make changes, or if they were told like that they could make changes and didn't feel like they had like the freedom to do it because it's like a beloved classic game, or if they were just never given any information and then just assumed that they shouldn't touch things. So it's hard to say who, like we'll never know really who to blame for that.
Yeah.
But it's very frustrating. And now like I know all the Gen 5 fans are like, please don't remake our game. It's fine. We're good. We can do DS. It's okay.
I'll wait until the next console.
That's a really good point. I could see them being like, yeah, you know what? Like, I feel like any change we make will just invoke a kind of like, not anger, but like a disappointment or whatever,
well,
like within
with
the franchise.
The Pokemon
no matter what you're
community
gonna
is
do,
kind of
someone's
notorious
gonna be mad.
for that.
Yeah.
Like, Dexit or whatever was like such a whole ordeal that I can't really blame them for being like, we're not going to change anything. People are going to get so mad at us.
Yeah. People are going to be mad no matter what you do. Even if the game's perfect, there's going to be someone that's mad.
Yeah.
Pretty
much. That's the thing is like, you have to make changes or else there's like no real point to the game existing. Besides the fact that it's easy to access because, you know, those old DS games are really expensive now.
Yeah,
so I will say that is fair.
Ease of access and looking good.
But as a reminder, Nintendo doesn't make any of these old games, a lot of these old games, especially the ones in the DS, actually available for you to purchase. So if you need to get a hold of them, you can. I'm not saying how.
there are ways.
Legally, this is not advice.
Anyways.
So that's my Pokemon rant. We can answer questions again if we want. It's up to y'all.
That sounds fun.
Okay. Dear PB, when putting together marathon submissions, what do you usually do to make your submission as strong as possible? Alternatively, if you've ever helped select games for a marathon, what sort of things make submissions stand out? From Event Enigmatic.
So I can actually answer this. So the question had two parts.
That's why we had you on the show.
So the first question was basically like, what makes a submission stand out? I would say personally, for me, and I think these two questions actually kind of go hand in hand, like because this is what I look for. I look for somebody who basically, like, regardless of whether or not they can have commentaries, like, you know, and this is kind of an exception. Like, if they actually will have somebody who like will be on commentary for them, and they have made that clear. This kind of like it excludes that kind of situation. Like, I look for somebody who can hold their own on commentary, like, and who has like the charisma to like sort of complement the run. Now that's a very open-ended like sort of concept, but like basically what I mean is like, you know, they can hold their own with the run, and like, you know, is obviously like adept at the run. So I would say that for somebody who basically, whoops, hang on a second. This is actually a really hard part of the run. Okay, so I would say that for somebody who is looking to submit and doesn't know like how exactly to make their submission stand out, honestly, do your run with commentary live as you're doing the run. Like, it really helps, I think, to have to have a submission video where you yourself are doing live commentary.
Yeah.
And I think that's basically my answer for that.
People always, like a common misconception around, especially like if you're new or like have only watched GDQ, is like, oh, well, the way that you get into big marathons is you have the best time, and then you get into marathons. And that is very much not true. Because the way you get into big marathons is to, like a mix of like being a good entertainer, because that's what marathons are. They're an entertainment product first. Having a good time, like you can't have unless it's like a marathon that's specifically around that, your time needs to be like competitive, but you don't need to be the top tippity top runner of your game.
Yeah.
And then I will also say it always helps to know people, if only because like then like they know that like if you know people and they know that you're like a safe pick, like they're not gonna like after like the marathon's not gonna start and people are gonna be like, hey, why'd you have this person on? Have you seen their Twitter account? That kind of thing. Basic
vetting.
Yeah, and like the thing you need to be aware of too is that marathon organizers or like games committees for events. Like I've been on a couple of different games committees for like different events, like for fast-paced events and etc. But like the people don't have like infinite time to watch all the submissions.
Yeah, exactly.
As well, like like you can only watch so much of a submission, and like like people's minds can be made up by just like the 1 to 2 minutes they spend watching a run. And like I know that sounds kind of weird to some people. It's like, well, why don't you watch all the runs? We simply can't have lives. So like it's like
even if you didn't have a life, you still could not watch all of the content. Like GDQ gets probably multiple thousand hours of submissions, and there's no way a group
cannot
humanly
it's not humanly possible to do that.
It's the same thing as leaderboards, where people are like, wait, you don't watch the whole run? It's like, no, especially like
no, your run's 6 hours long. What do you want me to do?
We're not watching. Yeah, it's like I'm
making sure you're not
stuff.
cheating, and you
I
get
check
the
the
time
start
you
at
said
the
you
end.
did.
I retime it, and I like scrub through it to make sure there's not any obvious nonsense.
Exactly.
Another thing is like, if you submit something that has been in the previous marathon for that series, or and it's like the exact same thing, please do not be surprised when it doesn't get in.
I was scrolling through GDQ submissions for this GDQ and was like, that same category for that same game was at the last GDQ and nothing has changed since then. Why would you submit this? By the same person,
you can submit it, but you just have to have. It's important just not be disappointed when it doesn't get in. When it's like, well, we're not gonna put the same thing twice unless you were a Super Metroid runner circa 2014.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever submitted anything that actually has been in the previous marathon, because I already know like what the result's going to be. Unless I think the only exception to that has been Celeste.
Yeah,
I think for me.
Yeah. But then Celeste, like they're going to do a lot of times. They're just going to do like different ROM hacks now, because
that's true.
Yeah,
that's new content.
Yeah, like they did Glyph a couple
Shout
of
out to
GDQs
Court.
ago with with Flygon, exactly.
I mean, like I guess the only
friend
exception
of the
to that is if your run has dramatically changed, like something like Wind Waker, whatever the trick is.
Yeah,
I can't think. Berry Skip. Yeah, Berry Skip.
Yeah,
that's almost like that's like almost like a new category.
Exactly. That's like it's like a brand new run at that point. It's like Paper Mario Thousand Year Door before and after Palace Skip are two dramatically different things. So like something like that.
Swap.
If that happens between the same marathon, then I think that's more or less valid because the runs are so different.
If something big enough happens with your game that there's reporting on it, then you could probably feel safe to.
If you get a Kotaku article about it, then that's fine.
Exactly. But then, like, I've definitely seen like, I was kind of disappointed that my run didn't get in, and I'm like, well, because we've taken this run 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen that on both ends. It's like, I only have like 2 games that I can submit, and it's like I submit it, but I submit the same thing. It's like, I know this isn't going to get in, but like maybe. So then you give some variety with categories as well.
Also, if it's been in a lot of things recently, even if it's not that necessarily that marathon, then like there's a chance that the same sort of thing will apply. Like I know definitely when I was on organizers from some stuff, there's a period of time where like Fire Red Leaf Green wasn't every freaking marathon because it was just having its moment.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I've had
we
that
have
problem.
we have to do something else.
There was a stretch of time in 2018, 2019 where Brawl was at every single marathon, and I was like, it wasn't even like by me, and I was like, this game is way oversaturated now, and I feel like I don't want to submit this to anything, which was pretty unfortunate. But yeah, like too much of a game is not always a good thing, especially if it's the same category every time.
There definitely are not too many games that have that kind of staying power, if that makes any sense. Like,
right.
I mean, not every game can be a Super Metroid, for instance.
Right, yeah. Looking at GDQ, you have, like, Super Mario World, because it has so much, like, ROM hacks and stuff for it. Super Metroid and, like, Super Mario 64. But those are, like, the mainstays of speedrunning, period.
Yeah.
So...
And, like, Super Metroid is, like, a meme.
Yeah.
Like,
it
literally,
is,
it was a meme that brought in tons of donation stuff, so of course they're going to do it, because GDQ is a charity organization.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, and again, if it's a different category, then that's totally fair. It does still depend on the game. Like, I've definitely submitted, like, Sword and Shield runs to stuff that were, like, completely different categories, because they were CADEX, and then, like, the feedback I got was we were oversaturated from previous events. And I was like, that's fair.
It's also a matter of how long your category is, too.
True. Yeah, submit short runs.
Yeah.
If you only run long things, then it's going to be harder to get things into runs because it is a bigger commitment for the marathon organizers if they have a lot of submissions.
Yeah.
If your run is a third of the marathon. I say this as somebody who only runs games that are too long. I mostly run games that are too long. And I started getting like Poke Clicker into like every freaking event because they were like, it's Pokemon and it's 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I try and run games that are short-ish, just for my own sanity. Like, running long games is difficult for me, but also marathons like that sort of thing.
Yeah, if it's a bigger series and it's a long game, then like one or two will probably get in.
Zelda.
Like Zelda, Pokemon, like you're bound to see at least one game in a marathon, Final Fantasy, something like that. Like it's pretty likely that at least one will get in if there's submissions for it. But if it's like some lesser known game and it's like 7 hours long, then you should be submitting to Really, Really Long-a-thon. And that's probably it because they're the only marathon that has the capacity for that, unless it's like, except for in like some rare instances, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a marathon for a lot of things out there, like just specifically. Like there are lots of niche marathons. Yeah.
Limit Break.
Yep. Or really another. You did bring up Zelda. Also, I think not Zelda-thon. I'm thinking of ZSR has a bunch of marathons as well that they run, or not, or they do one like specifically notable one. I think each year for St. Jude. I want to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what the name of it is, and I'm actually mad at myself for not remembering what it is. But I know it benefits St. Jude. That's the important thing.
Right.
Yeah, I just say like the way I feel about it is like it's natural to be disappointed if you don't get into something, but after that initial disappointment, if like take a step back and look at your submissions and be like, oh, it makes sense to just get in. It was long. It was run the last thing, etc., etc. It's not a personal judgment.
Also, don't be a crappy person in your submission
that
video.
Helps too. Yeah, don't.
I've personally seen submission videos where people are actively like saying things that you should not be saying in most contexts, but especially in your speedrunning submission video. And I'm like, what are you thinking?
You can swear and stuff. That's fine.
Yeah,
like nobody.
Don't be racist.
Okay. There are maybe a couple marathons where they might be like, oh, this is kind of a liability, but like I think that almost all marathon organizers recognize that like it's your stream, or you can be different on stream than you would be on unless you have like you made like a fancy pre-recorded video and you're swearing in that, then that's maybe a little weirder.
Yeah.
Another thing that is like along that line, but not quite the same, is if you say, all right, so we've had a couple of different like instances of this, like as a games committee member, if you are like saying how much you hate the game you're playing in your submission video, you may not get chosen for the marathon.
I absolutely agree, and I've seen that.
I think that I have like a little bit of commentary on that, and that is it depends how serious you're being. If you're getting terrible RNG and you're like, I hate this game, that's fine. That's clearly like a joke. But if you're just, it's more about if you're being a negative or positive person. If your entire run is you just being like a downer, like the worst thing you can do is on like a stream or like on a marathon is to be like a huge downer.
Oh yeah. If you make a mistake and you take it personally and get really pissed off about it in either like a marathon or just like your submission video or something, that's going to reflect pretty poorly on you as a person.
It is like actually like content poison.
Yeah, it's like, all right, what happens if they make a mistake in the run? Are they going to go off on a tangent about how much they hate everything, or are they just going to like take it in stride?
Yeah.
Which is what you should be doing. So that's something to think about as well. Like, you don't need to put on an act, be like, oh, this game's so great, I love everything, but don't be like, wow, I hate everything, I'm so mad that I missed this 2-second time save. This sucks. Like, just roll with it.
There's literally nothing less watchable than somebody being super, super like negative and down during a marathon. It is like the fastest way to get me to turn it off.
For sure.
And if that's your marathon submission, then like I'm going to turn off your marathon submission and go, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of stepped over this because I had another thing to say, and that's what I do. But yeah, don't be racist.
Don't be racist.
Don't say a slur in your marathon submission video.
Yeah,
and,
one of the most important things. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure all of our audience probably knows this, but like, God, I've definitely gotten submissions where it's like, yeah, no, it seemed fine, and they used the slur.
Yeah.
So no.
Yep,
like,
I've seen that. I've been like reading comments from other people on submission teams, and it's like, yeah, at this timestamp they said some unsavory things. And I'm like, okay, well that's an instant deny.
Well, that's a no. Cool.
And like
Goodbye.
blacklist from everything. Cool. Yeah. Also, don't be shitty to other people in like the marathon Discord and stuff. Don't get mad at mods for not taking your run.
Be cool.
Yeah, don't be passive aggressive at people for not taking your run. I have seen that before, and that is the fastest way to never get accepted.
I've seen that so many times.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
you can be salty about it. Be salty about it with like your friends in a DM.
Don't be in the public marathon Discord and be like, "Oh man, maybe next time I'll get it." And apparently this time wasn't good enough, and it's like, "Ooh."
I've been salty about my submissions not getting in before, but it's like I'm gonna rant to my friends about it because I'm disappointed.
Right.
It's not I'm going to like go on a tirade and hashtag general.
It's so bad.
Oh God, be cool. That's my actual...
just be a cool person.
If you're a cool person and people are like, wow, they're cool, and I want to watch their stuff, and I would watch their stream. They seem cool. Then you're probably going to get in. You're more likely to get in. If they're like, I would never watch them in a million years because this seems like video or content, a content nightmare. Then you're probably not going to get in.
Yeah.
Stay positive. That's the real advice.
Be cool.
Or at the very least,
and don't
stay
be
positive
racist.
in your submission video.
Yeah. Which is why it is.
You don't have to be perfectly positive, but you got to be mostly positive.
Yeah, it is good sometimes to post record or post commentate your run, so you can kind of moderate yourself during it as well.
Oh, also another advice. This one's pretty hypothetical. If somebody else gets your game in that hasn't been in a GDQ before into a GDQ related marathon, don't be super sexist in your public channel.
Oh my! Ooh. Oh God, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think everyone does.
Yep.
That was the fastest way to make sure that game got into GDQ, but not by the people who wanted to get it, who wanted to be in it.
We got this in just to piss you off.
Yeah.
And because the runner is still good and you're not.
Yeah. Yes. Like marathon organizers are people, and thus, like,
they will be petty.
I will do things despite people being shitty 1,000%. I live for that.
It's a way to live. That's a mood right there, honestly.
Yeah.
Be petty.
Be petty, but like only in like against people being bad. Don't be petty in like because people are good. That's our sign off now. Be petty to people who are bad. Don't be petty to people.
I
am
not
good.
going to remember this.
It's kind of long.
Thank you.
It's kind of long. TGH, what's your comfort run?
My comfort run, honestly, I chose this for like actually, well, 2 reasons. 1, because this is my comfort run, and 2, because it happened to be about an hour.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah,
I gotta stop asking this question because everyone just says, "Well, it's on screen." That's why I picked it because I can talk and do it at the same time. And I go, "That makes sense." Yeah.
It's like this is one of the few runs that like I've done so many times that I can talk during it, even though I haven't really played this game in like 3 weeks. So like I can talk and play this game like.
I love a good no thoughts, head empty.
Yep.
Run.
Pretty much.
Like,
that
yeah,
is always good.
Oh
I don't have to think about it. I can just do it. I could write it. I could write an essay while playing this game if I had another hand. Hands are really the problem with that one.
Sure.
Do you recommend it?
I do. I do recommend this as a beginner run for sure. There is a tutorial out there. It doesn't like completely detail like the most what do you call it, the most optimal route, but it's really good for beginners.
There you go. And if
Run this game?
If you run this game, dedicate it to us because
we did this. Clearly,
we did this to you. This is our fault. Cool. Let me pull up the questions again. Dear PB, category extensions look really interesting to me, but not all games I'm interested list them as categories. How should I approach a community that I'm not yet a part of to try and get them to add a new, more approachable category to their game? From Castle Baloo. Run it.
Yeah, run it. Get other people to run it. Lobby for a leaderboard. If they don't make a leaderboard, then make a Google Sheet.
Perfect example of this actually is All Relics, No Major Skips, and Tunic, which you may have seen some of the talk about in the Discord, but yeah, perfect example, honestly. Like Ori Sky started running that category for a bit, and it's garnering interest, and honestly, like it's its own thing. Like it is, like once people start running, like the game is still brand new, so like people haven't like run everything yet, but yeah, like once it garners more interest, like people are gonna run it. Like I have intentions of running it as well.
Yeah. Hi, this is post-production May, the May that gets added in after the fact. Did you know we have a Patreon? If you're already a Patreon subscriber, this message isn't for you. Thank you, we love you, you can tune out for this part. But if you're not, for only $3 a month, you can get access to episodes early and get a bonus episode at least once per month. The bonus episodes are like different from the regular episodes. They're a lot more unhinged, which is kind of saying something. You get access to all the ones we've already done, even if you subscribe now, so that's cool. We don't want to have to run ads during this program, because ads suck, and supporting us via the Patreon helps us not have to do that. You can check it out at patreon.com/dearpbpod if you're interested and can afford to do so. You're already supporting us by listening to the show and telling others about it, so this is kind of like a bonus thing you could do if you really like it. Okay, cool, I'm done, bye.
At some point.
Like if it's a cool category, eventually it'll hit a critical mass, and the two things, like one of two things will happen. Either it will just get added to the boards, like a CATX board we made, or enough people will want it to be on the boards that eventually the mods will either have to cave or it'll be a whole thing.
Yeah.
So peer pressure your mods, unless they're me.
Yeah, I mean the same thing goes with rule changes. Like, if you get enough people on board, there is a good chance that
which we finally did for Oras after years. Oh my god!
Yeah,
you don't know about this?
Yes.
No, I was about to ask.
So, I'm going to talk about Oras again, I guess. So in Oras, the old timing, which was the timing since 2014 when the game came out, is in Gen 6, both games have a post-credit fight. So,
I know the one.
A post-game fight, yeah. So there's a fight against Brendan, and it's after the credits, which are 11 minutes long in Oras. The one in XY is like after 3 minutes. It's not too bad. but in Norris it's 11 minutes, and then it's just a fight where you lose as fast as possible, because it doesn't matter what happens in the fight. It still progresses no matter what. You don't get any experience. You don't get any money. It doesn't affect the game at all. It's essentially like a Marvel post-credits cutscene sort of thing, but it's a fight. And for years, people have been like, why do we do this? This is so dumb. Like, we wait 11 minutes for this fight that doesn't affect anything. And it's like, well, it's the last meaningful input. And also the words "the end" appear afterwards. Like, yeah, but every other Pokemon game ends at Hall of Fame. Asterisk, except for Gen 2, but that's a whole different thing.
I can see the meaning for ending the run there, but I can also see that just being a huge pain.
Yeah,
like that's totally like
if it's not 11 minutes, then sure, but like that's
the
a
thing
lot
is, like,
of time
it's
just to
so
sit there.
arbitrary. Like, you can make an argument for either one, like end at Hall of Fame because that's like the last meaningful fight, or in terms of like the last fight that actually like affects anything in the game, and also the credits play after it, right? But then you could, and then you can also make the argument where, well, the end appears after that, and like it can affect times because of crits and stuff, right? And
that did affect one of the placements on the board too.
In that case, I would always side towards the one that is more good for the actual human beings that are running the game. But so like we did a vote about it a while ago, and it was like a 55% said yes, which wasn't a supermajority, so it didn't pass because that was the requirement to get it changed. And then we did another vote. I brought it up on a whim, actually, because I felt chaotic, and I was like, hey, we should talk about this again. It's been like the rules say you could bring it up after a year. It's been a year. Go nuts. And this time it passed with like 78% of the vote.
Fair. Yeah. Honestly.
So now we finally have the good timing because and there are people like, well, we're just going to relitigate this forever. And it's like, well, kinda, if enough people feel strongly about it that
and
like, it should be different, then it will get relitigated forever. It's not like a matter of necessarily sore losing. It's a matter of, in this case, a majority of people, this wasn't a super majority last time, was like, hey, this is bad. And so when you have the majority of people feeling that strongly about something, like, it's going to keep getting brought up.
I love the way you worded that. I felt chaotic, so...
Yeah, I
felt chaotic, so I brought it up.
So might as well.
Otherwise... Nothing's gonna get done without some chaos.
I agree. True. That's the way I live my life, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you want something, bring it up, and if other people also want it, they'll sign on to your proposal.
Also, shout out to CatX. CatX, a very underappreciated part of speedrunning that people don't know about unless they like are already into speedrunning or watch No Category Left Behind.
Yeah. There's like no reason that a lot of CAD extensions shouldn't exist, because
I agree.
If like your mods are like, oh, it's gonna clog up the board, so that's why there's a different board for like all the other arbitrary stuff. And doing arbitrary stuff is fun.
With the legacy of category extensions, though, where people think of them as just being meme runs, but there are actually a lot of like serious categories on category extensions that just aren't on main boards for largely arbitrary reasons, honestly. Like, I'm a believer that because there is a legacy connotation towards CADX being for things like nipple percent, that like if you are doing a run that accomplishes like a primary game goal, like beat the game, then it should be a main board thing.
I mean, I could also see main board should be categories that complete the game and like reach the end of the game.
Sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But category extensions like do something more or less arbitrary in the game, but don't necessarily complete it. So I guess that Pokemon, distinction kind of makes sense.
I think TAMs should be trade alt mains and alt mains should be a main board thing, because they're completing the game in a way that is intended by the game, which is use a Pokemon. The way that most people play the game, which is use a specific Pokemon that you like the whole way.
Right.
But then the counter argument is that but one person will end up running a TAM and then it'll be like an empty board, which I don't care about personally. But
yeah, I could see that from both ways.
I've never cared that much about having empty boards.
Yeah, I mean, like
sparse boards. It's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, and it really doesn't matter if you're on. I guess it doesn't matter at the end of the day if you're on the main board or category extension board. You're still playing the game. Yeah. You're still doing a run.
If you're worried about people being like, "Well, I have a world record and this thing that's only me," it's like
that's me with Hat in Time category extensions. I have multiple world records that I'm like the only person that's run it.
That's fine. It's like that person's getting something out of it, and like nobody's fooled, I guess is my thing.
Right.
Like nobody's like,
it's like,
oh, you have the world record in DO %. You're the best hat in time player of all time.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you have the world record in Pokemon Sword Drifloon Trade Alt.
Yes.
Or Drifloon Alt main because you're the only person stupid enough to run it.
You're the best player in the game that has the restriction of only using that Pokemon.
Exactly.
And that's objectively true because no one else has done it.
Yeah, run Pokemon Cadex. They're super fun.
The best category extension I can think of is Celeste 202 Berries.
Ooh.
And the only reason that's category extension as opposed to a main category is because it's like you said, nobody's crazy enough to run it except for a couple of people. Except for a couple of people. But yeah, like otherwise that would probably be a main category. But it's just so ridiculously hard to do. Like sometimes it's hard to even complete that run.
If it's crazy hard, that's like a reason for it to be a main category.
It can be, yeah.
It completes a main part of the game, and it's so hard that like that should be shown off. That like here are people at like the absolute peak of the game or whatever.
But I think
Death Wish is the main category, right?
What is?
Hat in Time.
Hat in Time Death Wish, which is like probably the hardest Hat in Time category. That is it harder than Hatless Badgeless? Yeah.
110% is the hardest category.
Oh yeah, 110% is really hard.
That has 3 runs. So. Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean, it's really, at the end of the day, it's at the description of the mods, but you can always lobby for stuff to be changed.
And the mods should reflect the community. So if your mods are like, well, everybody wants this Cadexed, and we don't want it because of our weird ideological bent, then make a Google sheet and become your own mods. Become ungovernable.
Or you can just be chaotic and make everything a main category.
That's what I want to do.
My favorite main category of a leaderboard is Donkey Konga 2 All-Star %, where you start the game and complete All-Star as fast as possible. I
think we talked about the Sims categories in a previous episode. The Sims has some good categories like Die. Or 100 Woohoos.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun categories.
Sims has so many ILs.
Yeah.
Which episode was that? Was that the one with?
That was Josh.
That was Josh. Yeah. Yeah. Aspiration Rambunctious Scamp.
Yeah, that's a good category. That's good IL rather.
It's Woohoo times 50. My bad.
Oh.
And then the Ghost Woohoo.
Ghost Woohoo.
Would you smooch a ghost?
I'd try.
For everyone.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Question mark?
Anyways.
I feel like I was being tested there.
You were being tested on your Undertale, that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, just peer pressure your mods. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Unless they're me. Don't peer pressure me. I'm fragile. What part of the dear PB, what part of the speedrunning process do you like best? Routing, running, practicing, etc. From definitely not friend of the show, Lauren. I like routing.
I just like
doing
running.
Runs sucks, and I like theory crafting. I'm kidding. During runs is fine. I've been on a routing bent.
I feel like I would like routing if I was good at it.
Yeah, me too.
And I know that sounds really shallow, but like, I don't like doing things that I don't feel like I'm good at. Like, I like improving at things, but I don't think routing is a thing that I feel like I can improve at.
Well, the thing is, like, it depends on, like, routing is so different depending on the game, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I like routing trade alt mains for Pokemon, because it's pretty much just, like, a big puzzle of how do I get through every fight as seemingly efficiently as possible. And then they're never super optimized because they're more of a niche thing anyways. So you can do some silly stuff and get away with it. And yeah, I've been on a trade alt main rooting bent lately. I impulse rooted 2 things in the past week. One of which I ran yesterday and it went okay.
Nice.
But then like something where it's like, oh, well, it's like, how do we save a fraction of a second sort of stuff? by this by doing these things in this order instead of this and this glitch or whatever, like all the hat and time routing stuff.
Oh yeah, there was a big route change that was thought to be a lot faster, and then ended up only being like 2.5 seconds. It ended up being 2.5 seconds slower.
Yeah.
But it was pretty major. But at the same time, it's like rerouting a game that's old is difficult because everyone's probably already bound to try something. Not to say that you shouldn't try new things, but like you're not going to reroute Super Mario Bros. Like that's not happening. Like there is only one route. You need to do it
unless a glitch is found.
Yeah, exactly. Unless there's like a game-breaking thing that will end up changing like the run fundamentally. If it's like a very old game, odds are most possible routes have been tried, and the fastest one is what's done.
Yeah.
But there is
also,
always a shot
like,
that it's.
I never want to actually time stuff. That's my real problem.
You just ask the community if it's faster and hope they do it for you.
I've done some timing before, specifically for some Let's Go stuff, but I'm usually just like, the thing that I find more interesting is like the theory crafting and how can I make this work with the tools that I have available to me, which is why I like Pokemon routing. And then when it's like, how can, like, oh, here's 4 different things and I have to time them all and figure out what optimal is 2 seconds. I'm like, I don't want to do anything optimally.
Yeah.
If I did that, then I'd have good times.
That's the hard part.
It's hard to time some things. Like, I mean, it's like some games are harder to time things in than others. For instance, like I'll bring up Tunic again. It's super hard to time some things in Tunic.
Yeah.
But with like Celeste, we have like the practice like demo tool basically that we can use. It is super easy to time things provided you can perform both strats. It's like really easy to both time things, like to say like, oh yeah, this is faster than this, or like to say this is faster than this, like for me personally, you know, like it's super, like that's also really important too. It's like I may not be good at routing, but I'm good at individualizing things for my own like liking, if that makes sense. Like just I like I don't know, I like making some things my own, and some other people can use that too. But like, yeah, it's honestly, I just like improving. Like I like running. I like I might come across as kind of like a grind monkey, if you will, like that sort of term. But like, but I just like improving. Like I just like improving and having that tangible thing to go by for improvement. You know.
This wasn't time, was it?
Oh, time happened like 2 minutes ago.
Oh, crap.
Perfect.
That's what I was like. This looks like an end cutscene, but it's been a long time since I played Link's Awakening, so I don't actually know.
I had a 51:22 on my time.
Okay.
Nice.
We have 54:10 on our time, so who could say
Perfect.
who's right?
Still under marathon estimate.
Did great.
Good stuff.
Yeah, rooting's hard.
Yeah. It is hard to get into it as well.
Yeah, I think I personally find the less optimized something is, the more fun it is to root, unless it's like something where it's like you know really well and you're like, I could try this, maybe this will work. Then that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to time stuff. It's like I don't want to like make a video and then upload it to YouTube and then frame count it. And I'm like, ugh, that's like verifying runs. Gross.
Yeah, routing stuff is difficult.
What is going on with that text?
Oh,
our gamer.
That is hello 30 FPS recording.
Yeah,
so you get beautiful names like Mcomsia, Catridge,
Kookmer.
For the benefit of the listener, my eyes hurt.
So basically, the text alternates between frames at 60 FPS. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Shout outs to our gamer, by the way.
Our gamer.
It should say programmer, but instead it says our gamer.
That's my favorite subreddit.
What are programmers if not our gamers?
Nothing but support for our gamers. TGH, where can people find you? Give us some ads.
I stream every day except for Wednesday nights and Thursday nights at twitch.tv/TGH_SR. If you want to stop by one of these days, we do a bunch of different things. I'm actually leaning away from speedruns at the current moment. Talking like late April, but I've been doing like no hit Minish Cap challenges, which are going about as well as you'd expect. And
it's like, how true is that? Because you posted like a world record in every Tunic category, like every other day.
Well, look, Tunic is an exception.
Okay.
I've been speedrunning Tunic, but doing like other challenges for other games as well, like mainly Zelda games. But I've also been doing some like Pokemon Ironmon as well for
Ironmon. Yeah,
a lot of people have been doing that lately.
Yeah,
I've been
Fire Relief Rain, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. But,
don't do late game Ironmon. It's a nightmare.
Oh god, yeah.
I'm doing Gen 6 Ironmon. And it's the worst garbage. There's too much stuff. I feel so stupid every time.
But yeah, so that's really it for me. We have a chill time. So
go follow TGH.
Thanks for having me on. Like,
thanks for being on.
This was
fun.
Thanks for being here.
For sure.
If you like our show, please send us questions. We ask every week for questions, and people are like, "I'm sure somebody else has asked the question." No, it's like school. If you have the question, somebody else does too. So you should ask it.
There are no dumb questions.
If you've already asked the question, or like somebody else has already asked the question, and you have like a slightly different version on it, that's cool. Submit it anyways, because
we have answered the same question multiple times, and that's okay because people have different views.
It's true, and also because, like we said before, once the podcast is over, it stops existing in temporal space and is erased from all of our collective consciousnesses.
Yeah.
Play control. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/dearpbpod. You cannot follow us on Mastodon yet. We'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. You can follow us on Patreon and give us your dollars so that we can pay for Zencaster at patreon.com/dearpbpod. You can follow us on YouTube. There's a link in the description. And you can, as always, send your questions in using the form in the description or by emailing us at dearpb@maybreak.com, which I sometimes check, but not as much as I should because we actually don't get, we like nobody ever emails. Everyone just uses the form because it's easier. And I think that does it for all of us here. Our next episode will feature Amber for real this time because we're not going to screw up the recording, even though I did screw up my backup recording again. But I think my main recording's fine. So
cool.
From all of us here at Dear PB, what was the really long outro that I had?
I told you I was going to forget. Don't be racist.
You be petty to people who aren't cool, but don't be petty to people who are cool.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.